Humans survive creatures that should not exist. That was the first report. I dismissed it immediately. Every species exaggerates its dangers. Fear distorts memory. Survival stories become legends. It was a universal law. Humans were no different. At least, that was my first mistake. My name is Vraxtel, Reconnaissance Commander of the 7th Expansion Fleet. I was among the first to enter the human system after their defenses collapsed. The invasion was proceeding perfectly. Orbital stations fell. Communication arrays vanished. Military resistance fragmented. Our analysts predicted total planetary submission within 21 rotations. Then we reached Australia. I still remember the briefing room. A simple blue sphere rotated above the tactical table. One landmass flashed red. A warning symbol appeared. The human officer we captured had laughed when he saw it. Actually laughed. I assumed it was stress-induced neural failure. Now I know better. We don't go there much either, he said. Nobody in the room understood why. Our fleet commander certainly didn't. The invasion force assigned only a single division to secure the continent. Millions of soldiers. Heavy armor. Atmospheric gunships. Autonomous hunter drones. Enough force to conquer entire civilizations. The operation began at dawn. For 6 hours, everything went according to plan. Then the transmissions changed. The first report seemed impossible. A patrol vehicle had been disabled by a bird. Not a weapon. Not sabotage. A bird. I reviewed the footage personally. The creature launched itself through an open transport hatch. It was tall, fast, covered in feathers. The soldiers attempted capture. The bird attacked instead. 2 soldiers suffered severe injuries before the vehicle crashed into a ravine. I stared at the recording. The explanation was obvious. The humans had genetically engineered biological defenders. It was the only logical conclusion. I sent the report upward. 3 hours later, another transmission arrived. A different unit, different location, different disaster. This time it involved something called a cassowary. The surviving officer sounded terrified. That confused me. Our species had fought plasma storms, planetary predators, void parasites. Yet this officer sounded more frightened than soldiers facing combat. I watched the footage. The creature emerged from dense vegetation. Bright colors. Massive claws. Primitive anatomy. It looked harmless. Then it moved. The recording ended 6 seconds later. No weapons fired. No tactical retreat. Just screaming. The signal cut abruptly. I reviewed the footage 14 times. Each viewing raised more questions. Why would humans allow such creatures to exist? Why had they not exterminated them? Why did local human settlements continue operating nearby? None of it made sense. Human behavior followed no rational pattern. At first I assumed carelessness. Then came the spiders. The reports arrived from dozens of locations. Venomous organisms. Small, fragile, insignificant. I laughed when I saw them. Entire squads were requesting medical evacuation because of tiny arthropods. Absurd. Then I learned the humans barely reacted. Some ignored them completely. Others relocated them outside buildings. One human worker reportedly captured a dangerous specimen using only a drinking container and a sheet of paper. The soldier witnessing the event suffered psychological distress. I considered this further evidence that humans lacked proper threat assessment. That was my second mistake. By the end of the first week, casualties exceeded projections. Not from combat, not from resistance, from Australia itself. Vehicles vanished into floods. Soldiers collapsed from heat. Marine units encountered creatures with enough bite force to crush armor plating. One report described an aquatic predator attacking a reconnaissance drone. I thought the sensor data was corrupted. The predator was larger than some combat vehicles. The humans called it a crocodile, as if that explained anything. The strangest part was human reactions. They never seemed surprised. A settlement would receive warning of a deadly animal nearby. The humans would nod, continue eating, continue working, continue living. I developed a theory. Humans must possess impaired danger recognition. It was the only explanation. Any intelligent species exposed to such conditions should evolve extreme caution. Instead, humans displayed indifference. Weeks passed. Losses increased. The continent resisted us without fighting. Then something worse happened. The disappearances began. Entire patrols vanished. No distress signals. No combat recordings. Nothing. Just silence. Command blamed human guerrilla forces. I agreed. It fit the evidence. At least initially. Then a patrol beacon activated. Deep within a remote desert region. Recovery teams arrived quickly. They found abandoned equipment. Damaged transports. No bodies. No signs of battle. Just endless sand. One symbol had been carved into a vehicle hull. 3 simple words. Wrong way, mate. The phrase baffled our translators. The recovery team returned confused. 2 days later, they disappeared too. Fear entered the fleet. Not panic. Not yet. Just questions. Questions became rumors. Rumors became stories. Stories spread faster than official reports. Soldiers whispered about unseen predators. Invisible hunters. Living deserts. Forests that swallowed people. I dismissed all of it. Fear was contagious. That was all. Then my own mission received orders. A reconnaissance flight over a sparsely populated region. Routine assignment. Nothing unusual. 5 personnel. 1 transport. Simple. Safe. I remember feeling relieved. Finally, I would gather proper data. Finally, facts would replace superstition. The journey began smoothly. The landscape stretched forever. Red earth. Endless sky. Ancient silence. No enemy activity. No wildlife encounters. Nothing. Hours passed. Then our navigation systems failed. Every system simultaneously. Impossible. I ordered manual correction. The pilots complied. The aircraft continued drifting. Something felt wrong. I could not explain why. The sky remained clear. Sensors detected no interference. Yet unease settled over the crew. The silence felt alive. Then we saw the road. A single human vehicle sat beside it. Old. Damaged. Abandoned. 1 human stood nearby. Alone. No weapons visible. No military insignia. Just a weather hat and strange confidence. I felt immediate suspicion. No civilian should remain in this region. Especially not alone. We landed. The human watched us approach. Calm. Relaxed. Almost amused. That bothered me more than hostility would have. I stepped forward. The human smiled. You're lost. A statement. Not a question. I informed him that we possessed advanced navigation systems. The human looked toward the horizon. Then back at me. Yeah, he said. Everyone says that. Something in his tone unsettled me. I demanded local intelligence. Maps. Threat assessments. Environmental hazards. The human listened patiently. Then he laughed. Not loudly. Not mockingly. Just knowingly. As if he understood something I didn't. As if he knew a secret. And for the first time since arriving on Earth, I wondered if the wildlife was never the real danger. The human pointed toward the distant desert. Mate, he said quietly, you've only met the easy stuff. At that moment, every survival instinct in my body screamed. And I still didn't understand why. The human pointed toward the distant desert. Mate, he said quietly, you've only met the easy stuff. Every survival instinct in my body screamed. I ignored it. That was my 3rd mistake. The human refused evacuation. Refused supplies. Refused protection. He simply climbed back into his damaged vehicle. Then he drove away. Alone. Into a desert that had already consumed multiple patrols. I watched until the dust swallowed him. None of it made sense. Humans feared nothing. That was the pattern. Deadly animals. Extreme heat. Floods. Venom. Isolation. Humans faced all of it with the same strange confidence. I believe confidence came from ignorance. I was wrong. Again, our transport finally restored partial navigation. We lifted off. For 3 hours, nothing happened. Then the storm arrived. Not on sensors. Not on scanners. Not on forecasts. One moment the sky was clear. The next it was alive. A wall of dust stretched across the horizon. Massive. Endless. Moving faster than physics should allow. The pilots panicked. Visibility vanished. Systems failed. The aircraft shook violently. I ordered emergency ascent. The engines responded. Then one exploded. The transport fell. The impact shattered the hull. Darkness swallowed everything. When I woke, The storm was gone. Silence remained. 3 crew members were dead. 1 was missing. The last survivor was badly injured. Our communications were destroyed. Power cells ruptured. Water reserves damaged. We were hundreds of kilometers from support. The desert surrounded us. Infinite. Merciless. I finally understood fear. Not fear of enemies. Fear of a planet. The injured crew member died before sunset. I buried him beneath the wreckage. Then I began walking. The temperature dropped rapidly. Night arrived. The stars appeared. I had never seen so many. They felt wrong. Cold. Watching. Hours passed. Then I heard movement. Something circled beyond the darkness. Slow. Patient. I drew my weapon. The movement stopped. Minutes later, it appeared again. Closer. Then closer still. I fired into the darkness. Silence returned. I told myself it was an animal. A simple predator. Nothing more. But deep inside, another question formed. Why did Australia always feel like it was studying us? Morning brought no answers. Only exhaustion. I continued walking. Water dwindled. Heat intensified. The landscape never changed. Every direction looked identical. By the 3rd day, I began seeing things. Shapes. Movements. Voices. I assumed dehydration. Then I found footprints. Human footprints. Fresh. Impossible. I follow them. Hours later, I reached a small structure. Weathered metal walls. Solar panels. A water tank. And the human. The same human. The one from the road. I froze. He should have been hundreds of kilometers away. Instead, he sat calmly in a chair. Drinking tea. Tea. In the middle of a death world. I concluded he was part of a hidden military network. It was the only explanation. The human listened to my accusations. Then he smiled. Again. Always that smile. You aliens keep making the same mistake. I demanded answers. He handed me water instead. I drank. The relief was overwhelming. The human remained silent. That bothered me. Most species explained themselves. Humans rarely did. Hours passed. The sun lowered. The human finally spoke. Want to know why Australia keeps beating you? I immediately answered yes. He stared toward the horizon. You think survival is about being stronger. I waited. Out here, survival is about being stubborn. I dismissed the statement. It sounded primitive. Simplistic. The human laughed. As if he knew exactly what I was thinking. That night the answer arrived. Something enormous attacked the outpost. The ground trembled. Metal screamed. The walls shook. I grabbed my weapon. The human grabbed a flashlight. A flashlight. I could not comprehend it. The creature burst from the darkness. Massive. Muscular. Fast. The largest predator I had ever seen. My weapon fired. The creature kept moving. The human stepped forward. Forward. Toward the monster. I assumed he had finally gone insane. Then he shouted. The creature stopped. The human shouted again. The predator retreated. Retreated. I stared in disbelief. The human returned calmly to his chair. As if nothing had happened. That usually works. Usually. The word haunted me. Humans did not survive because danger was absent. Humans survived because danger was normal. That realization changed everything. For the first time, I studied humanity differently. Not as conquerors. Not as prey. As survivors. Then the fleet transmitted an emergency priority signal. I reached the communications array. The message chilled me. The invasion was collapsing. Entire divisions had vanished. Supply routes failed. Equipment losses skyrocketed. Morale had disintegrated. Not because of human armies. Because of Australia. The continent had become a nightmare. Every environmental hazard amplified every strategic weakness. Every predator punished every mistake. Every storm destroyed every assumption. The humans barely participated. The planet fought for them. Yet one detail stood out. Human casualties were rising too. I finally found the contradiction. If humans understood this land so well, why were they suffering? Why did they continue risking themselves? Why remain here at all? The answer came the following morning. A distress beacon activated nearby. Alien survivors. 3 of them. Stranded. Injured. Enemy soldiers. My soldiers. The human immediately prepared a vehicle. I was confused. He owed them nothing. The invasion had killed thousands. Perhaps he wanted prisoners. Revenge. Interrogation. That made sense. At last, a human action I understood. We reached the survivors before sunset. The soldiers expected execution. Instead, the human gave them water, food, medical treatment. I stared at him. The pattern broke. Everything broke. Every conclusion. Every theory. Every assumption. The human saw my confusion. Then he spoke words I will never forget. If somebody's dying out here, you help. I reminded him they were enemies. Invaders. Killers. The human nodded. I know. That answer made no sense. Not to my species. Not to any species I had ever known. Yet the human acted without hesitation. Hours later, a rescue shuttle arrived. The survivors boarded safely. Before leaving, I turned toward the human. For the first time, I understood something. Not everything. Never everything. Humans remained impossible. But I understood enough. Australia had not defeated us. The wildlife had not defeated us. Our assumptions had. We believed survival belonged to the strongest. Humans knew survival belonged to those who refused to quit. The shuttle doors closed. The human remained behind. Alone. On the deadliest continent we had ever encountered. Comfortable. Unafraid. At peace. As the shuttle rose into the sky, I looked down one final time. The human appeared impossibly small against the endless wilderness. Yet somehow the continent itself felt safer with him there. Years later, after the war ended, I often remembered Australia's lesson. Every species fears monsters. Humans simply learn how to live beside them. And that is why humans survive creatures that should not exist. Because somehow, they became one of them. And that is why humans survive creatures that should not exist. The monsters of Australia never ruled that land. Humans did. And somehow, that was far more terrifying